Check, check, 1, 2, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to meeting 4 of the Northwest Area Elementary School Boundary Study. My name is Chris Mercado from the Baltimore County Public Schools Office of Strategic Planning. Good evening and welcome to all our committee members, all our observers here in person at Pikesville Middle School, and all our viewers at home through a live stream. As you come in, there were sign-in sheets available for both committee members and for observers. Please avail yourself to those sign-in sheets so that we can get an accurate count of all in attendance. In the event of an emergency that we would need to evacuate the building in case of a fire alarm, for example, do note the exit signs around you. Our best exits are through the main cafeteria doors we entered at and to the front of the building. That would be a place where we would reconvene outside with the sign-in sheets to make sure that we had good attendance on everyone and we're not missing anyone. Restrooms are right outside the main doors and to your right towards the front of the building. Our website is www.bcps.org, following the resources button at the bottom of the page, and then there is a link to the Northwest Area Elementary School No. 1 Boundary Study. That is where you can find all materials, all videos from previous meetings. That's where you can find the comment form. We've recorded comments from members of the public that are available to our committee members. We remind our committee members through regular emails and at our meetings to please visit the website and review the comments. Comments are up to date as of Monday. I don't believe we received any comments for this study in the previous week, but comments are indeed up to date, so we do remind our committee members to please review the comments from your colleagues and constituents and stakeholders. All materials from this evening's meetings will be posted tomorrow on the website. Remind committee members of the orange parking lot question sheets that are on your table. Those are really vital to capture any ideas that we need to, any data that you'd like to research, any questions you have, comments about map markups and things of that nature. Please be sure we're capturing all those questions on those orange sheets that we collect and review after the meetings. And as also a reminder during the meeting, if you have any comments to make, please step up to one of the microphones so that we can capture your voices effectively for the meetings. We do have translation services available this evening. If anyone would like to listen or speak in Spanish, we do have a translator available, so thank them very much for joining us here tonight. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. James Cooper from Cropper GIS. Thank you, James.
Yes, and thank you, Chris, and thank you, committee members, for your commitment and being here tonight. Getting started a little late here, and you guys have your work cut out today, so I'll try to breeze through this presentation, answer some follow-up slides, quickly go through the new options that you have here tonight, and tonight is the voting process for options that we're going to bring forth to the public information session, so I want to give you as much time to evaluate these new options tonight so you can make some adequate decisions. So just looking at our timeline here, we're going to review some new information, handouts of the draft options. We have options 1 through 10 now. There are 9 new options tonight. Many of them are exact markups from the previous meetings that we had at meeting 3 for suggested changes to planning blocks. And then there are also 3 other new options, 8, 9, and 10, that were based off of some of the feedback of making Summit Park and Fort Garrison a little bit more full, Bedford, Wellwood, and Millbrook a little lower as well. And then there was also a demographic-led map that you'll see in option 10 that I'll go into a little bit more here soon. As we get through tonight by 7:15, hopefully we'll stay on course with discussing some of your thoughts on the new options that you have here tonight, and then we'll nominate some options to be voted on as a committee as a whole, and then we'll vote on all nominated options, and every option that receives more than 50% vote from the committee will be selected and be presented at the upcoming public information session. So just looking here, we're at meeting 4. Again, we're going to review some new options, nominate options, vote here tonight to select which options are going to be moving forward at the upcoming public information session. The public information session is scheduled for November 8th, 7 to 8 p.m. We hope the committee can get here a little early, give you a brief overview of what to expect. have you surrounded by the maps that are voted and approved to come to the public information session by you to speak with the public about them and some of the decisions that have been made thus far. So a follow-up and some requests on, there was requests from the committee to know what the current 9/30 preliminary enrollment data shows. So this table here just highlights the current enrollment. This is based off the end of year, K through 5th grade at each school. Want to note that some of these schools don't currently have kindergarten in them. So this shows, for some schools, it's 1 through 5th, but it shows you the current enrollment as they are situated as of September 30th of 2023. So you can see there is some fluctuation, but overall, it's around the same for most of the schools. This table here shows you what that preliminary data looks like. And when you include the Cantfield students, you'll see that this number here is a total of 132 kindergarten Cantfield students that are in this study area. Our current data shows 108, so this shows a slight increase for the Cantfield kindergarten student movement. And then this preschool to pre-K post movement shows you what the enrollment and utilization would be over under capacity at each facility. So you'll still see that Millbrook is still well over capacity. Scotts Branch has gone up slightly compared to what the end of year enrollment showed. And then Wellwood is still greatly over capacity, with some other schools that have additional capacity to provide some relief and get some balance for the study area. Another question from meeting 2 was, can Cantfield ELC stay open until the project at Scotts Branch Elementary is complete? We do anticipate that Cantfield will remain open until all programs are moved, and it will close by fall of 2026. It is the plan that for Cantfield ELC programs to move once space is available at the receiving school. So they won't move unless there is space at that receiving school to take in those students. Program movement is planned and it's timed to provide capacity at all the elementary schools in this Northwest region, and this includes schools participating in this boundary study as well as the second one in fall of 2024. So looking at our review and results from the small group option review at meeting 3, you reviewed 7 options at that time. And based off of some of the feedback, you see their snippet here was kind of some of the markups of suggested changes this is option 3, so this was suggested changes to option 3. You'll see that new options were drafted tonight that are direct reflections of your markups. So you see option 3A, which is the variation of this snippet here. We have 6B, which is a variation of 6B that a small group marked up. We also have 6C, and then we also have 7A, 7B, and 7C. So you have a handful of options that are direct markups from the small groups for you to evaluate, look at the data, and see how those movements impact certain statistics related to this boundary study area. There was also requests from committee members to leave Scotts Branch unimpacted. So you'll see some options like options 8, 9, and 10 do not impact Scotts Branch at all. And there was also a request to have Fort Garrison and Summit Park be the higher utilized schools over Millbrook, Wellwood, and Bedford. So we look to try to bring that utilization up for Fort Garrison and Summit Park while keeping Bedford, Millbrook, and Wellwood closer to that 90% average or below. There was also a request from a committee member to draft an option that reflects the demographic diversity of the study area. It was said that some of the options didn't move diversity enough within the study area region, and there was also the considerations exercise that you as committee completed in meeting 1 that showed that you valued demographic diversity and utilization over all other considerations. So you will see option 10 that does favor that. It does deviate from some of the other considerations in a big way, but I really want you to evaluate that holistically as it was a request from a committee, from the committee, and take an objective approach to it as you look at that option. There were some planning block updates. Like you'll see there, planning block 607 was split and become 607 and 610, and this was to help be able to create option 10 as well as some of the other options. Those planning blocks for Fort Garrison that were below 695 was a heavy request to move those back into Fort Garrison. In order to do so, we had to cut another planning block so that Summit Park and Wellwood can still extend west. So you'll see that there was some change to the planning blocks in order to accommodate so we can try to create these options without deviating from all the considerations in whole. So We definitely want to give you a reminder, it's meeting 4, we still have public information session and 2 other meetings after that are scheduled. Everything is still draft. We are exploring every option possible that you as a committee want to explore. Nothing's set in stone. Even tonight, we're not voting on the single best option to recommend to the board. This is still a process, and we're right here at that midpoint. So just want to look, if you see an option that you don't favor or doesn't move what you want it to move or does move an area that you don't, just remember everything is still draft, and we still have a lot of time to evaluate, and we still have opportunities to receive ample feedback from the public via the public information session and moving forward with the comments section as well. So in total, we have 16 draft options. You had 1 through 7 from before, and then the markups from last meeting, as well as 8, 9, and 10. So 9 are new. So you guys have your work cut out tonight to evaluate these options and see which ones do you feel are viable and abide by the objectives and the considerations that we outlined in the beginning. You have 8.5 by 11 maps as well as plot maps. We have ample space here to spread out, given that there are so many maps, so don't feel confined to one little area. If you need to spread out so you can take a good look at these maps, please do so. These maps are also on the interactive website. We do have laptops, I believe, and with so many maps, it may be beneficial to pull those up on the interactive web map so you can click through seamlessly to kind of see the changes in these options. And then also all copies and handouts and statistics are located on the Boundary Study webpage as well. So that's your over-under capacity and your utilization for all these options. Again, options 1 through 7 were the ones that were reviewed from meeting 3 and prior, and then 8, 9, 10, 3A, 6B, 6C, 7A, 7B, and 7C are all your new options tonight. So you definitely make sure you have your statistics at hand when you're evaluating these tables so you can understand some of the impacts and some of the moves that were requested by the committee. You also have your demographic enrollment tables. This here is showing current, and then it's showing option 10. And you'll see here, option 10 is very nuanced, but it does move that demographic needle to get most schools in balance with that study area average. There are still some schools that are outside of balance, but it does move that demographic needle significantly compared to the previous options. You also have your impact tables. You can see exactly how many students are impacted in each option. And then also you can look at these tables that show the beige rows. Gray looks like here on this PowerPoint. That shows exactly how many students are moving from one particular school to the next. And then the total are these tables that calculate and sum up all of the impacted students. You also have your feeder pattern tables, and you'll see here how many splits exist in all these options. Consistently, we've been dealing with the Bedford splitting off the Northwest, with that area moving from Scotts Branch to Bedford in many of these options, but in some options that they do not move. You'll see here in this example, option 7A, based off of the moves, there is an additional split that is created from Wellwood to Northwest Academy, where 17% of the students will be migrating from Wellwood Elementary to Northwest Academy in option 7A. All feeder split tables are located within your stat handout as well for all options. And then we have a walk zone table. The good job of preserving all walk zone students in all of these options so they are unimpacted. So at this time, we'll have you dive into your small group work. Do we have any questions prior to you diving into your small group work? No? It's about 6:20 here. We'll try to reconvene shortly after 7 by 7:15, where you guys will have your discussion over these options. If you have any questions while you're working in your small group, please feel free to contact me, BCPS staff, Matthew Cropper, if you have any questions. Without further ado,
tape here? Yeah, this is a better tape.
Yeah, we'll be ready to put some up there.
Hey Chris, what's the hotkey on that?
Yeah, how do you get it to come up? Yes. All right, Vic, we good. All righty, committee. We'll wrap up our discussions here.
Just wait.
J-
So, James,
We're going to have them talk about it first.
yeah, once you've done the nomination, have everyone ask for all the voting members to raise their hand and we'll distribute the act.
Okay.
And make it clear principals do not vote.
Yes, absolutely. All right, committee. Now we'll wrap up our discussions here. Get your last markups on the map, and we'll have you first. We're going to have you come up to the mics and discuss your group's observation of the maps first before we jump into an option nomination exercise thereafter. But we want to hear your feedback and discussions on the maps, ones you didn't like, ones you do. If there are any still suggested changes to any of the options. So I guess we'll start with the green group here. And we can have you come up to the mic there. I'm gonna come on this side, actually.
Nine. So this week for us was a little bit easier for our group. Number 9, we liked the best. We felt that it really looked into a lot of different schools' wishes. So up here, it's giving the Fort Garrison people that thought they didn't have a lot of children to just leave them where they were because it doesn't make sense, won't make a whole lot of change, so we like that. And then we liked everything around here except that we thought that for Scotts Branch, we would give this group back to Bedford, and it would make Bedford to 87 and Scotts Branch to 116. And then they wanted us to find a second map. So we found a second map, and then we made some changes. And then some people thought that I was making too many changes to make it look like map 9. So part of the group, we wanted to give these two groups back to Fort Garrison, and then we were talking about, would it be okay to leave one at Fort Garrison and bring one to Summit Park? We also thought that this place here, these right here are Summit Park, but they're also part of this neighborhood across the street, so we thought it would be better to keep that whole neighborhood together and keep that little bunch there back to Summit Park. And we thought that this part right here that's going to Millbrook to give them back to Wellwood.
And what option markup is that one?
This one, 6C.
6C.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And what we really thought would help is if we could dig up Wellwood and move it down the street, but we know that can't happen.
Okay. Are there any other conversations, statements from the green group about your discussions? Does anybody have any questions or concerns or suggestions for the green group as well? So what we'll do, we're not going to nominate options yet, but what we'll do is put that one to the side, and you said it was 6C?
6C and 9.
6C and 9.
9 is our favorite, but
9
we have
is
to get another
with no
option.
movements. Okay, great. So with 6C, we could name it 6C version 2, 6C V2, so that when we do get the option nomination, if somebody wants to nominate that option, then that'll be the one with those suggested changes.
Okay, we did make one change to 9.
To 9, okay.
We did have one small change to 9 right
To 9. Okay, so we'll make that 9 version 2 as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Oh, yes, it's a strong opposition to it.
The mic. The mic is yours. We have time. This is the blue group, I believe.
Yeah. This mic is a little short for me. Okay, so,
There you go. This is 9.
okay.
So because the first group loved 9, we figured we should tell you why we put it in our no pile. And then leave it up to the group and the public. We liked the way that, we liked the utilization for the most part, but this map put, was it Fort Garrison? Put Fort Garrison at 97, and there was some concern that there are some additional neighborhoods going in there that are being built now, and that may take them up to 100, and they're not in that list of schools that are getting a replacement.
And then Millbrook being split up. And then the other commentary was that the neighborhoods currently zoned to Millbrook are going to be split up. And so the idea was to try to keep those together, although from looking at all these maps, I'm not sure how easy that's going to be, but that was some of the commentary in the group. Okay. Now, to a map that we did like, and then anybody else from Team Blue, come on up and speak your mind. Thank you, my Vanna White here. Okay, so the one map that we did like was 6B. We wanted to make some changes, so I guess we can call this 6B V2, like you said.
Indeed.
The mindset here was, the reason that we liked it was if we maneuver a couple things, then all of the schools, aside from Scotts Branch, are going to be in the upper 80% as far as capacity, which is really nice because then it gives that flexibility for any of the schools, if there are more people moving into them, to be able to have the capacity to grow. So what we did here was we have Bedford at 91%. We have Fort Garrison. We have planning zones 101, 409, 404. No, wait, let me restate. I'm sorry. 101, 404, 403, and 402 moving to Fort Garrison, which is 22 children. And right now, they are at 85% capacity, so the mindset there is they would still stay in the upper 80%, maybe 90%. And then we have 407, 408, and 409 moving from Millbrook to Wellwood, taking Wellwood from 75%, again, probably into the 80%, and Millbrook from 113%, hopefully to the 90%. And then I think that was it on this one. So yeah, the main mindset is with a little tweaking, the hope is that everybody with this map could go to the high upper 80% in capacity.
Okay.
Right,
Awesome.
exactly.
Does anybody have any questions, any other conversations? We got another option up? All right. Yeah, I want to take this though.
Okay, so this is a little bit similar. The one thing that we,
What? Yeah.
this is 6C. Starting, Millbrook is at 99%, which we didn't love. Wellwood was at 79. So with some of the other maps, they had moved 41 into Wellwood, which would sort of balance that out really nicely. We thought if we just move that, this keeps the kids that were currently at Millbrook really moving to one school, so they all get to move together to Summit. It really utilizes the new building well. If we move these two, which the public comments had requested as well, to stay in where they currently are, which is Fort Garrison, it balances again. It adds more to what Fort Garrison is currently if you look at the utilization given by Cropper for 6C. And most of them, it keeps Bedford at 87%. If you wanted to add some relief to Scotts Branch, pulling out one of the planning blocks that they had suggested last week is still an option to do so. It would still keep Bedford under 100%. It would still give them room to grow. And nobody is busting at the seams with a couple of modifications in this 6C.
It looks good. So are you suggesting that?
6C version
Whatever
1
we're up
point.
to.
Yeah.
6C version 3.
Yeah.
And that, we're gonna include that Scotch Branch area to Bedford in this.
We can. This was one of the planning blocks that had been proposed to move in a couple of the last versions, and one of the gentlemen from Scotts Branch had spoken to, I guess, some families there, and they were comfortable with that as well, which is why we thought this was an okay block to pull in. But we would hope they would comment if they have feelings about that.
When it might come to that one.
I think it's reasonable to move them as well. If you want to pull this into Summit, it's totally an option to do so. I think that's more than reasonable and doesn't change, again, significantly. Anybody is being too full or not having space to grow.
Okay. So just
That can be moved as
Do
well,
you-
yeah.
I was about to say, so
Yeah, if
you
want me to mark
will
that up, yeah,
include
that's
that one?
totally
Okay.
reasonable.
So
Yeah, we'll
I
change
think
that too.
if you
We'll mark
move
it up.
that,
Yeah.
that would be very similar to
Yeah.
what we did with
Yeah.
6C, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So maybe we
Yeah.
put those two together side by side and see.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
this
I
seems
think
to
the
be
only
best
difference
balance.
is probably the Scotch Branch movement compared to yours.
I think it's the green part going back to orange down at the bottom.
This 110,
Yeah,
Yes, and
these two
then,
neighbors, yeah,
Both.
209 and 110.
what's that block
Back
that
to
we
Summit.
haven't?
and that's 11 and 3, that's 14 children
Yeah.
in those planning blocks currently.
Planning block 410, where do you have them? They're purple right now?
No, yeah, 410, we moved to Wellwood.
Yes, so did we.
And you want 209 and 110 would go to Summit, is that right?
Yes.
Yes,
So
we
we
agree.
did, okay, then there's
We
that.
agree, yep,
Wow.
For sync-
Ta-da!
for sync, should we
So I guess we
combine
can
them?
nominate that one.
No.
yeah.
Do you want to?
Is it?
Just for clarification from this green group, the only difference between your two suggested changes
there's
is
nothing we-
that
anything
planning
on this
block
side is
of, I
635.
believe it's 66 students going to,
Because of that
or
plan- because of
60
the
students
side
going to
that
Bedford from Scotts Branch?
There's nothing that can, we can change that. And that's the only way to get rid
We did have another question over
Otherwise,
here.
that's right.
My question was, with your model, you were speaking of moving some of Millbrook's kids to the green. What percentile would that put us at?
So
Because
Wellwood right now,
91% is too
without
much.
moving them, is at 79% utilization.
For 6C, I'm sorry.
For 6C without moving them, and
Without-
you're looking,
yeah.
you were asking about Millbrook's
Yes.
change?
So we would take from Millbrook, what is just that currently at 99%, you would
Yeah.
take all of planning block 410, which is 41 students, and move them to Wellwood.
And
Okay.
what's the,
That would give them, I think, an extra, yeah, that would put them in the 90-ish range.
I'm curious, did you guys look at option 8? Because all of the suggestions you're making, with the exception of Scotts Branch, is essentially option 8.
Yeah, that's,
did we look at 8? No. We might not have gotten to it.
I don't think we're even
Okay.
seeing an 8, actually.
Take a look at option 8.
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
We did look at 10 and appreciated the effort.
Good work, good work. Yeah, take a look at option 8. It may appease most of those moves. Good. So we'll go here to the yellow group.
We didn't like 8 because it's split.
It's got a weird little
From Scotts
satellite.
Branch, it put 11 kids in one school and 60 kids in a different school, and we didn't think that, we didn't like this, we didn't like any, we didn't.
That's not 8, that's 7A.
Where's it?
Yeah, 8 doesn't split. There's no satellite in it. Nope.
Oh, this.
So you're
this
talking-
was, we didn't like this further either, that's what we were talking about.
We definitely didn't like that satellite. Not at all.
Again, we looked at it again.
Wait for,
Yeah, we decided, yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
wait for option 8.
No, we thought it was 7.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. We'll have group yellow here to talk.
Okay, so we did select 2. We decided to look at the utilization numbers first before we looked at the pictorial, because we wanted to try to be as objective to try and narrow down before we then dove into the maps. So, looking at 9, I did want to speak to 9 because we liked 9, except for when we looked at the utilization percentages, it was pretty even, except for Fort Garrison, I believe, was at 97, and then Summit Park was at 87. So when we looked at the distribution, we thought that needed to be evened out a little bit more. So that's why we did not go with 9, but overall we liked what we saw except for that little piece. So the overall one, once we started looking at changes, we realized option 8 was where we kind of landed. Option 8 had several benefits. First off, it alleviated all the satellites that were initially in that we have right now. It also gave significant relief to Wellwood as well as Millbrook, which don't have any capital projects planned. We also felt that it was an equitable distribution between, except for Scotch Branch, which does have a capital project coming, and it put everyone below the 90% utilization rate. And we also felt that with option 8, that 10% difference between Fort Garrison and Summit Park that we saw in option 9 was eliminated when these planning blocks over here were slated to go to Summit Park. So that was our selection, was option 8.
Option 8, awesome, awesome. Anybody have any questions? Any other discussions from your group?
No, we thought the commentary about 10 as well, it was a good effort, but we thought it was a definite no.
Not worth the squeeze, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, thank you. And then we have our final group, Group Red. I need to know how many variations. Right now, we only have 2 variations, right?
So we actually had 2 as a group. The consensus was option 8. And we had 1 change that we'd like. We'd like to change planning block 504, which is about 14 kids, back to the orange area, which was Summit Park. Is that Bedford?
No.
You went in Bedford, I'm sorry. You want 504 to Bedford, forgive me. We want the 504 right here to go to Bedford.
Okay.
Besides that, we liked this map. We liked how it kept most of the areas together. There were no satellites, so that felt good for us. The numbers, actually, for 8 looked great. Everybody was in either the 80 percentile. There was only 1 outlier, Scotts Branch, and we thought we don't want a family to have to be moved twice if they're going to be in a second survey, so we thought to just leave that as untouched as possible, just for the sake of not giving someone double jeopardy, and that's not fair. Our second choice, our runner-up was 9. 9 and 8 were very similar, but again, 9 wasn't our favorite. The numbers weren't as nice. We didn't like that Fort Garrison was at 97%. So if we went with that, we'd need to tweak it a little bit so that everyone had a fair shot. But 9 was our runner-up. And we do understand that the kids at Millbrook have to be split. I mean, there is no way to alleviate overpopulation if you don't break up areas. And we don't want our Millbrook kids that we currently have to go to a myriad of different schools. But unfortunately, in order to make this resolved, we got to make some sacrifices. Everybody's got to sacrifice, just like nobody should have a better number than any other school. We did have an outlier, but we thought it was well worth it because, like we said, the good old college try. You want to tell them about 10? Or would you like me? Okay. So, I mean, we like this one, and it pushed diversity, and everybody heard about 10 and the good old college try. But this is our spokesperson for 10.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be the anomaly in the entire group. And that's fine with me. 10 by itself, I like the concept. I think a lot of us in the room like the concept. I think 10 is unfinished, but I do think 10 should be presented to the public. I think 10 should be presented to the public for discussion. It is so different from all the rest of the options. Allow the public to make a comment. I think if there is a little bit more work done on 10, we can get some favorable utilization rates for all of the schools before, Scotts Branch's new building gets finished. So if everyone takes ownership of the concept and actually pushes it a little further, I think we can have some favorable utilization for all of the schools. But as it is right now, I do believe it's unfinished, but In concept, I think it should be presented to the public because it is different, and they should be allowed to make a comment.
To the mic.
Before you make your comment, one of the things, I was just going to help you out, even though 10 was not my choice, I definitely see where she's coming from. 10 pushes equity. It takes those kids out of those areas and brings them to different populace, making all the kids a winner, whether brown, black, or white, because when we all learn together, we are better together. The only concern for me was the busing situation, having kids getting stuck in traffic. We already have conundrums with buses right now. Sometimes they're at school till 4:30, 5 o'clock waiting for a bus. But the concept, like she said, is a sound concept, just like when we went through desegregation. Sometimes you got to push kids into a place to propagate change. But there are some concerns for like parents who don't drive. How can they get their kid to school, emergency pickups, sick days? So there would have to definitely be some all-around buy-in for that. But that was a concept that she was pushing on. And I get it. We just would definitely have to think that through.
You're not going to convince me otherwise. I'm just saying, sorry.
You good.
I think it should be presented to the public. I know there are a lot of reasons to say no to a lot of things. We don't have to say yes or no, but we can't allow the public to comment.
I appreciate that.
I love her. I love you because seriously, because I think it is so great that you feel comfortable enough and serious enough to be able to come up in front of everybody who pushed it away and to say something. So good for you on that. The one thing I have, I'm like literally standing on my tippy toes, but you know, I'm that person in the room, is can transportation come up? I mean, I'm curious, and I'm sure the public is curious, to see how this does affect things, transportation, because I'm looking at, you know, Summit Park. Yeah, or like the Summit Park all the way down there, and then is that Bedford in the yellow over here? I mean, to what you said, I mean, that is, we get what you're saying, and I think we're all supportive of a movement like that and to hear about it and to give it an opportunity, but not if my child's on the bus for 45 minutes to an hour. That's kind of where I draw the line. After a long day, they have to come home, they have to do homework, they have to eat dinner, they have after school activities. So while we want to make everything work, logistically, transportation, how would this look before we do present this map to the public?
Come to the mic, please. Oh. Yep. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah. So
We'd love to hear from transportation, but as I was saying, I think it's unfinished. So like in concept, I think it's something to present, but I think it needs some tweaking.
That's fine.
I think
that's
it does
fine.
need some tweaking.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll try to get that data back to you, especially if if it does indeed vote to go to the public information session. We'll try to have that data prepared so you can have some talking points, especially around the community, around that map if it does make it to the public information session.
So we had one clarifying point that we wanted to be sure of. Were we clear in understanding, or were we a little confused? Did you say that the kids from Campfield would not be moved to their home schools until there was capacity for them?
Yes.
Okay, so are the kids from Scotts Branch at Campfield?
Yes, they are. They
Okay,
are.
so that would mean that if Scotts Branch in any of these models would be at 120%, because that would encompass those kids, right? Then they would be held?
They would still be at Campfield at least until 2026, and between now and 2026, once the capacity is available at Scotts Branch, will those kids then return to Scotts Branch?
Okay, and so that was part of why we chose 8 or 9?
Yes.
Because at 120%, that includes the pre-K kids coming back, correct?
Yes, and just to clarify, we're gonna do an 8 version 2 because it does include planning block of 504 from Scotts Branch to Bedford.
Okay, so
So-
that would impact their capacity numbers because they would get to stay at Campfield until the next zoning.
Yeah, until the capacities.
So they would get a little bit of relief from that anyway.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Yep, come to the mic. Is it together or one?
You want to do it together? I truly understand and I appreciate what our good sis over here said about option 10. I live in the area where the satellites exist right now. You have a lot of older people in that area, grandparents and so forth and so on, that do care for grandchildren and so forth. The buses tend to be late going and coming. That's number one. So accessibility is definitely an issue. But I put the charge on BCPS to make the schools equitable, okay? Put the programs in place so that the students, families, everybody has what they need. I'm saying it's a public statement. So even if you make all of these changes and transportation makes amendments and all this good stuff, there's still the fact that in the school buildings there is inequity that exists. That needs to be taken care of first. So that's my piece, okay?
Absolutely.
I'm going to comment on the first part was I'm at Wellwood and it's a logistical nightmare with the satellites coming in. So I just want to put that on the record that I experience the satellites and I'm all for the idea of number 10, but I live it, I see it, I feel it, and it's logistically a nightmare. The kids come in late, they're staying late. It's just logistically, I don't know how the busing would work. So I just want to put on the record that having firsthand knowledge, satellite programs coming in is a very difficult logistical transportation nightmare. So I just want to say that.
Absolutely. Good. All right. I really appreciate the feedback from all you and the hard work you did to evaluate these options. We're now going to jump into an option nomination exercise, and we're looking to select viable options for you to vote on to bring to the public information session. An option will be included in the voting process that's going to happen right after this, even if it's only selected by a single committee member. So when we say, oh, you want to come select the option, come up to the mic and you say, I want to vote option 8 or I want to vote option 8 version 2. If all it takes is one committee member to say, I want to nominate this option to be included in the voting process. The voting process is going to take all the votes of the eligible voters, not principals, but only eligible voter committees. I believe we have 14 total tonight. And as long as an option has 50% or more votes, will it then proceed to be included in the public information session in November. But right now is the nomination. So if another committee member comes in and nominates option 8, we don't need a second committee member to come nominate it. It's nominated, it's going to be included in the voting process. So any option that is not selected by a committee member, so if say option 1, nobody comes up and say I want to nominate option 1, it will not be included in the voting process that will follow this nomination process. Do we have any questions about that? I know it may seem a little confusing. You want to come to the mic? Sorry.
The only question that I have is we're voting for a map to be chosen, and then in the public session, when it's presented to the public, is the public going to be explained that they too, similarly to what we did tonight, say, we like 7C, but we would suggest moving these planning blocks to here? Are they going to have that ability to speak to that?
So yes, at the public information session, every option that has 50% or more votes, so in most cases and in the past, it's been at least 3 to 4 options that have been brought forth. You can bring as many options to the public information session that receive 50% or more votes. I want to state that first. But at the public information session, all the options that receive 50% or more votes tonight will be presented at the public information session, where you as a committee will be around those options to speak with the public about them. And they can give your sentiment. It may be, hey, I love this option. This is the one I would love for you to push for, or these are changes I would suggest. There's also a survey that will go live following on the night of the public information session, that will last for the following 2 weeks, where the public will have an opportunity to complete a survey. What option do they like? You'll find out information about where the location that the survey participation members are coming from, and what they like about an option, what they dislike about an option, and there's even a comment section for them if they have any specific changes, like to planning block areas. So the public information session is not to select an option that we're going to recommend to the board yet. It's just to give options that you feel as a committee are viable that are viable for a recommendation, so you can get feedback from the public on those options. So the goal tonight is not to pick just one option. If you have multiple options that you like, you're able to vote on multiple. You're able to nominate any option, but when we get to the voting process, you're able to vote on multiple options as well. Yay or nay, and any option that receives 50% or more votes will be included. Does that answer your question? Hey, Matt, Mr. Cropper wants to say something.
One other note to make too. If you suggest a map with changes, say 8 with some changes, or whatever the map is with changes, we're going to take those changes, run numbers on them, and have updated numbers that reflect those changes for the public info session.
Yes.
So your map with the markups, whatever we call it, will be incorporating all those changes in the numbers for the public info session.
Indeed, indeed. So to start the option nomination process, will you do the honor and select, come up to the mic and, Paul, you have something to say? Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I don't know if the question was answered, but what I heard was, what's it going to be like at the public information session? How you interact with the public? It's not going to be anything like this. We're going to put the options up maybe in 4 different walls, 4 different locations. You have stations, and you will be standing by those maps. And the public's going to come up to you and say, tell me about this option. What do these statistics mean? And you have to explain it to them. You have to explain what's going on. You have to explain what the maps do. You have to listen to them. So it is a very active, loud, interactive, stand-up with a whole bunch of people talking to them. That's what it's going to be like. It's not even, no microphones, no one person speaking, everybody listen. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be like a cocktail party, just a whole bunch of people just gathered around maps, just talk. We call it a gallery walk.
Yeah, gallery walk, yeah, it's perfect. Science.
So then, how does that work? The entire night is like that? Then how do you guys get the feedback from those people if people aren't going to have the opportunity to stand up in front of a mic and say, hey, I learned from all these people about these maps. This is what I want for my family, or for what
You'll take notes.
Oh, we will take notes of what
Yes.
people are saying?
Yeah, there's a couple things.
Okay.
First, there's going to be a presentation up front where everybody listens, and then we'll say go outside, leave the auditorium. We're going to be in an auditorium.
It's all here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
So you'll be sitting down first, and then they'll say, okay, now we're going to start the gallery walk. They may ask if there's any questions from the public, and then we'll ask the committee to pick a station. Each station will be the same, have the same options. And then the public will just go to one of those stations, and you'll start talking to them.
Yeah.
And we'll walk around and listen, but we really expect you to be doing the listening. They're going to be talking directly to you. They're going to ask you questions directly, and then you have to absorb that. Ask them questions too, and then take that back with you when we reconvene. In addition, we're asking them to do an online survey. The online survey is going to have questions for each option. Do you like it? Do you support it? Not support it? And why? And we'll give you the results of those surveys.
2 questions. The surveys, are they anonymous, number 1?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other question is, do you have to be in attendance to fill out the survey?
No.
Okay, great, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions pertaining to that? All right, so 7:48. So we'll get to the option nomination exercise. Like you said, if you have an option that had some variations, I think we've marked down at least 3 variation options. So if it's 8 version 2, just you go up to the mic and say, I want to nominate 8 version 2. I'm sorry?
Do you know which versions were which?
Yes. We got to, and you can go over it at the mic as well, but we do.
If it's nominated, we'll hang it up.
We're gonna
and
hang it
we'll-
up here.
And we'll mark it up as that version.
As that version. Okay, we'll put marks on it up as we hang it up. So without further ado, yep, we have one at the mic.
I'm just going to start us off. I nominate option 8.
Option 8, as is.
As is.
Thank you. Chris, do you have it? You have some tape? You need tape? Okay.
Better start here.
Yeah. Yep, you could definitely, yep, you can come to the mic as well.
I nominate option 8, version 2, with planning block 504 moving to Bedford.
To Bedford. 8 version 2. No, that's not 8 version 2. Can we get, yeah. They have one there. Thanks, Jason. Yes, sir. It's planning block 504 from Scotch Branch to Bedford. 8 version 2. One second, yeah. It's they have 8 over there. Oh, they're down there. We left. Oh. So option 8.
We have 8 as is.
We have 8. We just need 8 version 2 with 504. And yeah, they have it marked up on there anyway, so that's perfect.
With 504.
From Scotts Branch to Bedford.
I'm going to nominate 6C, I think this was 6C2.
6C version 2, and I'm going to call out the planning blocks mic for you. C version 2.
6C, version 2, and the changes.
The changes are planning blocks 608 and 609
608, 609.
to Fort Garrison.
Is Wellwood to
No.
Fort Garrison.
No, Summit Park.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Summit Park.
Summit Park to Fort Garrison. Then we also have planning blocks 209 and 110 from Wellwood to Summit Park.
110, Wellwood to Summit Park.
And then we also have planning block 410 from Millbrook to Wellwood.
410, Millbrook to Wellwood.
And that is it.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, here you go, John.
I nominate boundary study number option 9, and it would be 9A or 9-2.
We'll call them 9 version 2.
There you go.
Okay.
And what are the suggested moves?
What are the moves?
We're looking at planning block 504 from Scotch Branch to Bedford. That's it.
I want to nominate 6B version 2.
6B version 2, and they have significant changes there. No, it's a little different because 9 has Fort Garrison going well below, and then this one only has Fort Garrison coming to here. It don't, yeah. So it's like
404, 101, and 402 to Fort Garrison.
Where are they currently?
Here, there, and Summit.
Okay, all to Fort Garrison.
And then we're going to move 407.
okay. It's planning blocks 404, 403, 101, and 402 to Fort Garrison. And then planning blocks 407, 408, and 409 to Wellwood. And this is 6B version 2. All right, do we have any other option nominations?
I did not mark this one up, but this is 10. It's 10 version 2, whatever. Moving 513 to Bedford.
Okay, so, thank you. So option 10B, version 2, with planning block 513 to Bedford. Do we have any other options to nominate? Yeah. We do, indeed.
So you all said, look at 8, we did. So we have another version of 8. This is the 6C version, whatever that we set up, which is 8 plus 504 and 513, moving to Bedford. Right? Okay.
So this is draft option 8, version 3.
It's fewer revisions than the other one we had.
That's fine. 8, version 3, and the planning block moves are planning block 504 and 513 to Bedford. And 513 to Bedford. 8, version 3. Do we have any other options that you want to nominate for the voting process? No?
The option declines to be nominated.
Denominate. Let's put a little extra one, yeah. This is 8. Yep, 8 as is. Okay, so it looks like the options that we have to vote on are option 8 as is. We have option 8 version 2. We have option 6C version 2. We have option 9 version 2. Option 6B version 2. Option 10 version 2. And then option 8 version 3. Okay, I'll do it again. You want me to do it again? Okay, we have option 8 as is. Then we have option 8 version 2. I have option 6C version 2. We have option 9 version 2. We have option 6B version 2. We have option 10 version 2. And then we have option 8, version 3. Awesome. All right, so do all voting members have an active vote in your possession? It should look like this. If you are a voting member, principals will not be able to vote. I'm sorry? All voting members?
For the record, what's our count, Mike, of devices?
How many voting members?
So we have 14 voting members. Stand
14
by,
voting
we're
members.
gathering our 14th.
Mike, so it's going to be a yes or a no, right? A for yes, B for no. So it's yeah. So when he says this live on each option that we bring up on the board, you'll either select A for yes, you want to vote yes to bring it to the public information session, or B for no, you do not want to bring that option to the public information session. It'll be a box that comes up, and once we have all 14 votes in,
Number on the back that corresponds to the number on there.
yes. There's a yes. Yeah, it's on. There's a number on the back of your active vote. So once all votes are processed, it should be highlighted on the screen here, so you can know that your vote has gone through. Again, it's A for yes and B for no. So for all those in favor of bringing option 8 as is to the we're wasting one voter? Okay, what's our, yeah, we have some time. We're going to pause. We have one voting member. So just for you know, it's if you want to vote yes for an option, it's A. If you want to vote no for an option, it's B. So all those in favor, all those ready to vote for option 8, yes to bring to the public information session, B for no, you do not want to bring to the public information session. And yes, feel free to come up and look at the options. Take your time. We're good on time, so we have time. She looks like we're going to see that right once he finishes. We have all the votes, and the results are 92% yes. So 8 will be included at the upcoming public information session. Okay, for option 8, version 2, which includes planning block movement from 504 from Scotts Branch to Bedford, vote A for yes to bring it to the public information session, B for no. Everybody's in? 76% yes, so 8 version 2 will be included at the upcoming public information session. All right, and now it's time to vote on option 6C version 2. It's 6C version 2, which include movements of planning blocks 608, 609 to Fort Garrison, planning blocks 209, 110 to Summit Park, and planning blocks 410 to Wellwood. Feel free to come up and look at the markup so you can kind of understand some of those moves. Vote A for yes, B for no. Waiting on one vote, device 14. Good. All right, we have 69% yes, so option 6C version 2 will be included at the upcoming public information session. Okay, now we have option 9 version 2, which includes planning block 504 from Scotts Branch to Bedford. Option 9 version 2. Planning block 504 to Bedford. Oh. Mm-hmm. One device? Oh. Ooh. Can we do a revote on option 9 version 2? Just try to select A or B. That vote count. All right, we have 53% yes, so option 9 version 2 will be included at the upcoming public information session. Okay, now we have option 6B, version 2, and it includes moves of planning blocks 404, 403, 101, and 402 to Fort Garrison, and planning blocks 407, 408, and 409 to Wellwood. Option 6B, version 2. Feel free to go look at the markups to kind of visualize some of those moves if need be. All right. Well, option 6B only has 23% yes, so it will not be included at the upcoming public information session. All right, and we have option 10, version 2, which includes planning block 513 to Bedford. 513. It has 15% yes, so option 10, version 2, will not be included at the upcoming public information session. And now we have option 8, version 3, which includes planning blocks 504, 513 to Bedford. Option 8, version 3. Option 8, version 3, received 46% yes, so it will not be included at the upcoming public information session. So looking at the approved options that will be included at the upcoming public information session, we have draft option 8, which we will rename to draft option A. Mike, can you mark this down? I got it right here. Oh, you did? Okay. We have draft option 8, version 2, which will be renamed to option B. We have options 6C, version 2, which will be renamed to option C. We have draft option 9, version 2, which will be renamed to option D. And these 3 were not nominated. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 options that will be bringing forth to the upcoming public information session. Appreciate your work. It's not easy, but appreciate your commitment to the process. Our upcoming public information session is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023, from 7 to 8 p.m. It's going to be at this location, Pikesville Middle School, in the cafeteria. If you could arrive by 6:30, we'll have a brief orientation of the setup and kind of what to expect, even though we went over that a little bit tonight, but just a brief orientation for you as a committee. Members of the public will view a presentation as you do per meetings, and then have the opportunity to talk around the maps with you, give their input, gain some information on how some of these maps were developed. And then an online survey will kick off. It will be available in a multitude of languages. It can be taken on any PC, mobile device, a computer, a tablet with internet access. And that survey will be available from November 8th through November 26th of 2023. Again, our public information session is Wednesday, November 8th of 2023, from 7 to 8 p.m. at Pikesville Middle School in the cafeteria. And then our next meeting as a committee will be Wednesday, December 6th, same location, same time from 6 to 8. At that time, we will have results of some of the discussions you had at the public information session, as well as the results from the survey as well. And we'll dive back into these options. Following that, we have 2 meetings left before we have to make a recommendation to the board. Yeah, you want to come to the mic?
Is there a possibility of the 5 that were selected being sent to the committee members along with the utilization chart and equity demographics ahead of the meeting so people have time to
Prepare for leading those conversations?
Yes, we will have a fresh stat handout with the fresh option names with all the updated statistics and demographics related to these markups.
Can they be emailed to the committee like the day before to have time to review?
Absolutely. We'll send that out prior to the public information session.
And just make another general comment. Although options have been ruled out for the public information session, those options are still able to be evaluated and looked at. If you guys feel that there are components of the options that were not selected that have merit, you could still rely on those maps to continue to your recommendation. And one other clarifying thing, I think there is one. The December 6th meeting is technically that is a sure meeting, but then there is an optional meeting after that. So if you decide that you're ready to make a vote on December 6th, you can, if the committee is ready to do that, you can vote on December 6th, and we don't have to do that follow-up meeting. But it's really just determined on how much progress the committee makes. If you guys feel you're ready at the December 6th meeting, then that would be your final meeting. But you could do another one if you feel like you need some extra time. So thank you guys very much. You guys all have a great night. We'll see you at the public info session.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.